Hi, it's Sandra here from Create in Spain. Now, for those who watched my video yesterday, you'll realise that I purchased a few stamps, just one set from Aldi in Spain yesterday. And I tried them out. I'm very pleased with the quality of the stamps. They're great. They were very reasonably priced. But the one thing that they don't come with, obviously, is a die to cut them out. Now, some of these images are not really suitable for making masks from. For example, these little individual flowers here would be a little bit finicky to bother using masking off. I would probably use those in areas where I wasn't going to do that kind of thing. But other ones, for example, the leaf and the bird and the balloons and the heart, the snowmen, that sort of thing, I would probably want to create a die in order to be able to cut out a mask, or indeed to be able to just cut out pieces of card and stamp the images and colour them in. So for those of you who already have a cutting machine, you're probably familiar with the process. For those that don't have a cutting machine as such, you have, for example, things like the Big Shot that use metal dies, or any of the other die machines. This will be new territory, but I just wanted to explain the process. And it is, if you have a cutting machine, a relatively simple process, no matter what software you're using. So just going to put these to one side now. I have here an image that I have already stamped. I just took the individual stamps, and I did it individually because sometimes if you try and stamp everything in one go, the ink is almost dry by the time you get round to the last thing. So I stamped them individually, and you notice I have some lines around the edges. Now all that was a 6.5 inch block of acrylic, in fact a stamp block that I have. And because I know its precise size, I just drew some lines around it on the outer edge and stamp my images within it. So how do you create a die from this if you have a cutting machine? Well, it is relatively simple. All you do is you stamp your images like this with a border around it that you know the size of. And we're talking about, you know it to the millimetre. You don't want, oh, it's approximately 6.5 inches. It needs to be 6.5 inches or 5 inches, or whatever it happens to be. So you want something that has a nice, strong border. You can use something like maybe a A5 piece of paper that you know it's A5, so that's it, you know the size. Or you can use something else that you know the size of. And all you do is you take this and you put it into a scanner and you scan it into your software. When the image is traced, and this isn't something that I'm going through, but image tracing for a black and white image is pretty easy in most software. When the image is traced, all you do is you make sure that it is the size that your border was created for. So in my case, 6.5. In my case, when I put it into the software, I didn't do anything else to it. I let it do its own thing. And when it came through, I looked at the size and it's 6.57. So I thought, okay, I'll just check that. And I then measured from side to side and thought, well, actually, yes, it is very slightly over the 6.5 inches. So I will leave it exactly at that. I did, and I then simply took my trace design, discarded all the interior lines of it, and just used the outside lines. Now, in the case of things like the snowmen, here you can see, I didn't want to cut them out individually. I just wanted them with a little line around them so I could cut them out all together and stick them onto something. And so I just did a very small offset. And I think, if I remember rightly, I did a 0.02 offset or something similar. And then when I put these down on my snowmen, if I hold it there, if I hold it there, you can see that it is the same size as my snowman, as indeed is the heart, which was done at precisely the same size. It didn't alter it at all. I've just cut them, I've just cut them out of paper. It's very difficult to do this and hold it at the same time. But I cut it out of, it's moving every time. I cut it just from plain white paper, and you can see it is the same size. So if I wanted to use this as a mask, I could. I cut it out in paper first of all, but I would recommend if you want to use masks, then cut these out in thin acetate, and then you can wash them, wipe them, get paint off them, ink off them, and just keep them with your stamps, and they're ready to go whenever you are. So I've got all those cut out of the ones that I wanted to cut out and make a mask. So you can make a mask, or you can make it so that, for example, this one, I could stamp the snowmen onto it and get them exactly as they should be to cut out. Or indeed with the little bird, for example, I could cut him out and stamp him as well. So that's how it's done. The software only takes you about 5 minutes at the most to actually do a trace and discard your unwanted lines. So for those of you who don't yet have an electronic cutting machine and going, maybe I want one, maybe I don't. If you want to have dies to match all your stamps, I would still recommend it, because if you can manage to pick one up for a reasonable cost, it will save you a fortune on dies. Also, and this is a good point, is that not all stamps come with dies in the first place. And so you might well end up fussy cutting most of the things that you want to stamp, which personally isn't my idea of fun. That's why I've got a cutting machine. I don't like fussy cutting much at all. Okay, so I hope you found that of use. Thanks very much for watching. Take care now. Bye-bye.